It's one of the biggest tax saving strategies, especially in Hawaii. I told my wife, I'm sorry, I'm in real estate. Unfortunately, we're going to be moving a lot because we're going to be taking advantage of this capital gains exemption.
What's up, guys? Today we have Mr. Ben Feynman on the podcast. Welcome to the show, bro.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Dude, so you sell $10 million houses and you're married to Miss Hawaii. Like I feel like you're living the dream. You know, like it's whenever I think of like a realtor or a successful realtor, that's exactly what I would expect a realtor to be. You know, selling sunset, whatever. I feel like you'd fit right in.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. You know, I work hard, but I'm very grateful for everything that's come my way, and I couldn't ask for anything more than what I have.
You know, so I mean, I think I saw some of your recent posts. You sold like a $4 million condo, a $2 million condo, and these are like more on the luxury sides in Hawaii.
Yep.
How are you able to like? Or number one is how much did you make on that $4 million condo sale?
Oh, getting personal. All right. So I sold some pre-sale units at Victoria Place to my clients, and so we bought a 3-bedroom for about 4.4 million and a 2-bedroom for about 2.6 million.
Okay.
And Howard Hughes is a great cooperating broker. They offer agents 3% commission.
Wow. Okay. So as a buyer's agent, you're getting 3% commission.
Yeah. So our job is to basically bring them the buyers, and they did a really great job on Victoria Place. It came out amazing. The amenities are really cool. So one of my buyers is keeping their property and the other buyer is actually flipping it.
Okay.
So we are already in contract for $5 million.
Wow. Is that on the 4.4 one?
Or on the 4.4 one. So he's selling it for $5 million.
So are you a listing agent as well too?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So on the buy, you made what, like 140 grand or something on that one
I can't
commission?
even do the math.
Something like that, right? On 3% on the 4.4.
Yeah.
And then on the sale, are you going to make another 2.5 or 3% on that guy too?
Yeah.
I mean, like as a realtor, I feel like that's like the perfect one, right? You're getting the buy and the sale at the same time.
Yep. But I guess to my credit, I was able to find the project for my client. I knew that the value would increase. We bought it at a great time, and I was able to find that buyer for them off market, which is an added benefit.
Yeah.
And I negotiated the contract, got non-refundable deposits, so we know that they're not leaving. And so, yeah.
I mean, so that's actually a strategy in Hawaii to buy a project as it's being built. You put down like 10 or 20%, and then once it's finished, then you sell the for a profit, right?
Yeah. So not all projects are created equal. I've seen a lot that have actually come down, which is kind of a shame because you're tying up your 20% of deposits until the building is built, which normally takes about 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And so if it were to go down, that really hurts because you've just tied up that money for no reason. But a lot of times it's really hard to purchase a new project sight unseen. You don't get to walk in it, touch it, see it, feel it. And so you're going based off these renderings. So it's a very difficult decision to make. So the buyers who take that leap of faith and actually make that purchase, they're usually rewarded with appreciation from conception until the time that it's built. And so if that project were to appreciate just 20%, that's basically like doubling your money because you're only putting 20% down. So if it appreciates by 20% in those short 3 years that it takes to build, that's a good way to double your money.
I mean, I feel like that's a strategy that I have some friends who do that, right? Like I think there's like like the new ones in Ward are coming up, and so like they bought it, they put the 20% down on like $1 million condo, right? So you put on 200,000, tie it up for 3 years. You're not paying any property tax, any maintenance. The unit's not like paying any HOA or anything. At the end of the 3 years, when it's built, he sells it for like 1.2 million. Yeah. So he made $200,000 off his $200,000 in like 3 years.
And I think it's a great way to invest. I've worked on my own my own home in Kaimuki, and there's so much work involved when you gotta get permits, you gotta hire vendors, everything goes wrong, and it's just kind of a big headache. When you're buying new projects, you're just signing a piece of paper and you're letting the developer do all the hard work.
As long as you can qualify for the loan, right? Because some of these guys, like the 4.4 million, I don't know if the guy's coming in cash at the end or whatever, but he actually has to close on it.
Yep.
Then when he sells in the back end, so he has to qualify for the loan or the purchase on that back end, right?
Exactly. So, But it's a great way to invest. But like I said, not all projects are created equal. So definitely reach out to your experienced real estate agent who's going to be able to guide you and pick the ones that are going to be in high demand. And you want to work with a reputable developer as well.
So, I mean, when you're looking at these different opportunities, let's say on the condos that are coming up, how would you determine whether or not you think it's going to appreciate or not in like the next 3 years?
Yeah, it's tough to say. Definitely, I think the majority of it goes based on the developer's track record.
Okay.
So there are some developers who price things fairly high and don't leave a lot of meat on the bone for the buyers. There are other developers who price it fairly, and there's other developers who price things low just to sell out quick and move on to the next project.
So you want to get the guy who's going to sell, who's going to price it lower.
Exactly. Or you know, someone who's fair, who's going to do a good job, and you know that there's not going to be extra lawsuits after the building's built. The maintenance fee is not going to quadruple after it's built. You know, if you're just flipping it, maybe it doesn't matter so much because you're just in and out. But if normally most of the condo appreciation is within the first 3 to 5 years of a building.
Why is that?
It's because it's new, it's sexy, people like new, and then also the maintenance fees haven't had a chance to go crazy yet. So I always recommend, if people are going to buy a new project and they're looking to flip it, maybe try to rent it out for a couple years, and then after the comps start to build and the value starts to increase, then you sell it. But if you're the first one to sell, there's kind of no comps to go based off of. But you want to make sure that you've got higher sales going up and up and up, so you can make some more money.
And at the same time, it also will be like long-term capital gains versus short-term capital gains, right? So like a little tax savings if you were to wait a year.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, if somebody wants to do like work on a project like this, is like are you the guy to know the ins and outs and things?
I know pretty much every project that's coming up on Oahu. That's one of our specialties. There's a lot going on in Ala Moana, Kaka'ako, and Kaka'ako is not even halfway done. If you look at the grand master plan of Ward Village and what Bishop Estate has planned, it's not even halfway done. And so people who think they missed out on it, it's not even done yet. And I think when that whole area is completely developed, it's going to be like Miami Beach. It's going to look totally different. It's going to be all these new high rises, but you're still early in the game. And so every building is a different developer, has a different story, different price points. And so it's important to select the right one. But outside of that area, there's still tons of projects going on. A lot of people don't know about Aria Lane in Manoa.
Okay, I've never heard of that either. So is
it's an Avalon project. Actually, I reserved a unit for myself.
Okay,
so they don't do a lot of marketing on TV or anything. A lot of people don't know about it, but I reserved a house myself. There's 93 single family homes in Manoa.
So Avalon's one of the developers, like they specialize in outside like the big areas. Like they do more like the areas that are hard to get into, I feel like. Yeah,
and I feel like they take something that's not currently being useful and they make it useful. You know, there's a lot of downtown projects that you know, maybe commercial space that's not very useful after COVID. And so they're converting those things into residential. And so I just really like how they're kind of thinking out of the box and making things useful again for us in Hawaii.
Well, I mean, it's a big vote of confidence if you're going to put your money in there too, right? Because I think a lot of times, like maybe as a realtor, we get advice like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. But then if you're putting your own money inside there, that's like, okay, like now you have skin in the game as well too. So I would more believe it because you're investing, you know?
Yeah,
so.
That's exactly how it started. I had some clients who were kind of interested in it. I did a presentation, sat through the presentation, and I learned more about it. And I thought, wow, this thing's really going to go up in value. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to reserve one for myself. So, you know, but I think, in Manoa, it's so hard to develop, and a development of this size where you can control the look of everything. And it's in the earlier part of Manoa. It's actually the old St. Francis School. Okay, so you're right next to UH. But you have nice weather.
You know what's kind of crazy is there's different parts of the island where I just personally I feel like they're overpriced. Like, you know, like I mean, like because like I think there's like when you go to Manoa, I mean it's a nice neighborhood, like, you know, like but the prices of what you get over there, in my opinion, are like ridiculous. Like, you know, because it's kind of secluded. Like the houses are old. They're selling for like $2 or $3 million for just like the beat up house, just because of the location. And like I don't know what it is about the Manoa location, but those houses, for whatever reason, like it's just really valuable. You know?
I agree with you. I mean, you know, to me, it's like, what's the difference between Manoa and Palolo? It's twice the price. But they're both valleys, and they're 10-minute drive from each other. But
I mean, they're both like 10-minute drive to downtown, 10-minute drive to like whatever things. I mean, they're similar. I mean, I think maybe Palolo is a little like more beat up in general, but overall, it's like it doesn't justify like double the price, like you're saying, you know.
Exactly.
So, but then it's super smart to have like I guess apartment over there, because based on the comparables in the area, because the price points are so high. Now if you build an apartment building over there, now everything is like way higher versus like build that same apartment building in Palolo, the build cost is exactly the same, but then what you can sell them for is gonna be a lot less, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my plan is to maybe move into it for a little while.
Okay.
Hopefully I can live in it for a minimum 2 years. I
Okay.
can take advantage of the $500,000 capital gains exemption. So I'll probably rent it out for a couple of years, and before the 5th year, I'll go ahead and sell it as a married couple. You're allowed.
Can you explain that a little bit more? So
Yeah. So for your primary residence, if you live there any 2 out of the last 5 years, you're allowed up to $500,000 in capital gains, which you don't have to pay taxes on. And as a single person, it's $250,000, but as a married couple, it's $500,000. So anything beyond that, you would have to pay taxes on. But it's one of the biggest tax saving strategies, especially in Hawaii. I know a lot of people don't like to move very often, but I told my wife, I'm sorry, I'm in real estate. And unfortunately, we're going to be moving a lot because we're going to be taking advantage of this capital gains exemption.
It's so smart. I feel like it's such a cheat code, right? So let's say you buy the unit for $2 million. Later on in 2 years, you sell it for $2.5 million. You pay zero taxes, which is kind of crazy or unheard of in the real estate game. You know, so.
And it works especially well in Hawaii, where we have high appreciation rates. On the mainland, where in some cities it's not appreciating that much, so you're not going to utilize this tool as much. But in Hawaii, on average, our real estate's appreciating about 5 to 6% a year. So if you can hang on to it, live in it for a minimum of 2 years, maybe rent it out for just under 3 years, and before that 5th year mark, sell it, you're going to really take advantage of this and keep rolling that over into a new property and starting your basis back over again.
I feel like buying a primary residence in Hawaii is one of the biggest ways to build wealth. Just looking at our parents or the people that I know who have built wealth over the years, a big part of their wealth building strategy was just buy a house here, buy a house there, and then over time they made $1 million by just sitting on it and doing nothing.
Yeah. But the only thing is, most of our parents have lived in the same house for 20, 30, 40 years. Then you don't have the option to sell it because you're going to have to pay so many taxes. So, what they're going to have to do is they put it into a trust, and then when they pass away, then it gets passed down to their heirs, and then there'll be a new step up in basis at that point. But I've had clients who held on to their property for 40 years, and now they have to sell. They bought it in Manoa for $163,000. And now we're selling it on the market for 1.4. You're way over that $500,000 capital gains mark. So they're going to have quite a bit of taxes to pay on that.
But I mean, so maybe the strategy, as a young person, is you buy a house, live in it for 2 to 3 years, and once it appreciates, you sell it, put it into a rental property or something. Buy the next house, we live in it 2 or 3 years, and you kind of slowly scale up, and then you're maximizing the tax deduction every single time. Versus if you just live in it for 40 years, now it's hard. You can't use the full tax deduction, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely my strategy, and I recommend it.
How many times have you done it so far?
Oh gosh, quite a bit. I mean, I look back on my life, I think I move on average about every 2 years. Currently, I think I've been in my home for almost 3 years, and this is probably the longest I've stayed put. But yeah, I think every 2 years or so, I'm picking up.
I wish I knew this strategy like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I just got into real estate recently, so I haven't had the chance to really take advantage of it yet. But I mean, to me, it's such a powerful strategy, especially if you start when you're younger.
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of clients who don't think that they want to buy or sell any property right now, and I say, well, how long have you lived in your home for? Normally they've lived there for maybe 8 to 10 years, and I said, well, let's take a look at how much it's appreciated. You've actually already appreciated over your $500,000 capital gains exemption amount. What, do you like living in your home, or do you wish you had a little bit more space, that extra home office? Why, just for giggles, let's go take a look and see what's out there. And then maybe it's like, oh, I wouldn't mind living in this house. Well, let's move our money over here. Let's sell this, move our money over here. Then you start your new basis and you start that clock back over. And then you can do it over and over and over.
That's one of the good things I think about a good agent is you can kind of paint the picture or give them what it would look like, right? Because a lot of times, as humans, we have such a limited ability to just picture and imagine. I think that's why staging is so important, because we just don't have the imagination to see what a house would look like. But if you get somebody like yourself with hey, let's just go through this exercise and see what would happen if you were to sell and move here. What would your life look like, right? And you can kind of paint the picture for them to see what that would actually play out.
And in my opinion, it's healthy to move every 2 years. When you're living in the same place, all you're doing is collecting junk. All your friends are giving you these gifts that you don't need, and the ones that you're not re-gifting, you're just collecting in your closet. And as time goes on, you're just collecting more and more stuff.
That's true.
You're not really decluttering. And so it's healthy to just purge all those things, move. And now, we hire movers. We don't have to lift anything. So, and we always start fresh. We buy new furniture, and it's good. It's a good chance to start over. So it just feels good, and I enjoy doing it.
I agree with you. I'm a big non-clutter guy, so I'm always throwing away things like just because I don't like clutter.
Yeah.
But I feel like just like change in general, I think it's just healthy.
Yep.
Like a change of scenery, a change in like your area landscape, meet some new neighbors, whatever it is. I think it's just there is something to be said about living in the same house for a long time. But I think in general, just like change and growth and evolution is just so healthy for us as humans.
I agree. Yeah.
So in going back to like these $4 million, $10 million like properties, like tell us about like the $10 million house that you sold. To me, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So it was one of my clients. It was earlier this year. It was very wealthy client, and they tasked me with finding them an oceanfront home in Kailua. And so we took a look at the ones on the market. We went after a few of them. Some of them we couldn't reach an agreement. Some of them we were actually in backup position, but it didn't work out. And so when there was nothing on the market that satisfied them, I didn't want to lose them as a client. So I said, you know what, I really got to make this happen. And so
you represent me as a buyer's agent? As a
buyer's agent, yeah. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to write a postcard. And I just kind of had a postcard, drew a map, and it said, if your house is right here, which it was basically oceanfront Kailua, I've got a cash buyer, and let's talk. And so there's a lot of agents who send out those kind of postcards who don't actually have a buyer, and they're just trying to fish.
Yeah.
And I made it very clear in the postcard, hey, I actually have a buyer. I'm not just trying to fish for leads here. Yeah. And I actually got a lot of calls back. I talked to a lot of oceanfront owners. Some were a little unrealistic on their price. And so we took a look at a lot of these properties that were off market.
Okay.
And then finally we came across one that we really liked. And so we kind of negotiated with them a little bit. And so they were like, they didn't like our initial price. So they said, we're going to actually just put it on the market for a little bit, but feel free to submit an offer. Okay. So we already saw it before it hit the market.
Okay.
It came on the market, and
what did it come on the market as?
I think it came on at like 10.7.
Okay. And initially, what did you guys offer?
I think we offered 10.0.
Okay. That was before it went on the market?
That we offered before it went on the market. It came on the market, about 10.7, 10.8.
Okay.
And then they said, let's split the difference, 10.375. And we said, okay.
What's kind of, I'm not sure the exact situation, but it would seem like they actually would have made more money if they just sold it to you off market, because they're only paying one agent versus like two agents.
Well, so that seller was self licensed.
Okay. So it didn't make a difference.
Didn't make a difference.
Okay. But that's a very creative way to solve that problem. And I think it's a lot of guys, like once like they're in box, right? So like they know how to do real estate one way, and then but it takes a guy like yourself to think outside the box to really get the opportunities that like maybe other people aren't aware of.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're dealing with that kind of price point as well, even if you were to overpay by $100,000 or so, Kailua oceanfront is so hard to come by, and that's one area of the island where the sand is actually accreting. It's actually gaining more beach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so as time goes on, the appreciation rates of that are just going to be higher and higher and higher.
That's really interesting. So like there's a big problem in Hawaii where a lot of the oceanfront houses, they're losing ground, right? So like the sand is disintegrating. There's I think a family, they're basically like their backyard was disintegrating to the ocean. So they built a wall to try and stop it. The city and county told them like, you can't build a wall. And so like they're finding them daily. I think they're old, like they find like $1 million or something stupid like that, just because they're trying to protect their own land. But like but in Kailua, it's actually the opposite.
It's actually the opposite. Yeah. So it's if you're looking for beachfront, it's one of the safest beachfront properties that you can purchase.
Do you know why that is? Why?
I think it's just the wave heights are not as big. So you don't have the big waves clawing at the beach. And then just the current and the way that is structured, just Kailua Beach right there, all the sand is kind of growing. It's just, picking up from other parts of the ocean.
That's so interesting. Okay. So, that's a good find. And then what did you end up making commission on that guy?
Oh, God. I think that was a 2.5% commission.
Awesome. So that's like $300,000 almost, something like that.
Yeah.
Off one sale, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. And it was a great buyer, great person to work. I actually bought it sight unseen. You didn't even see the property, all cash. Quick close.
How did you get connected with this guy?
Just through my networks. I go to Japan quite a bit. I'm
Okay.
actually a dual citizen.
Oh,
so
really?
I have a
Okay.
Japanese passport and American
So
passport.
you speak Japanese?
I speak Japanese, so
Okay.
I've been going to Japan a lot, meeting a lot of
Okay.
people there, and somebody introduced me to the right person and made a
I
deal.
feel
happen.
like in real estate, especially as an agent, it's always about your network and your connections, because whether it's like finding like another agent to work with or like your buyers or your sellers, it's always about trying to meet the right people and build your network.
Exactly. Hawaii is very small, and I'm born and raised from here,
Mm-hmm.
but I think what people need to realize is that word of mouth travels very fast here.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure you do right by people. You act with integrity. You don't try to screw anyone over, the more you give to people in Hawaii, the more you're going to get back.
I've definitely found that to be true for our company too, and it was never like intentional. Just you try to do the right thing because that's how your parents raised you, right? But over time, it just kind of compounds on itself, and as long as you continue to just have like a giving first approach, then you actually get a lot more than like you actually give. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, I mean, in general, like what's like you're a realtor? Is there anything else that you got going on as far as like business or investment wise?
No, I try not to spread myself too thin. My primary focus is real estate, and so, but real estate comes in a lot of different forms. So I'm a agent. Actually, I have my broker's license.
Okay.
So I'm one of the founding agents for Compass Hawaii.
Wow. Okay.
I was there from the beginning, and then we watched it grow from 10 agents to, what do we have now? A couple hundred agents.
There's so many different, I think, agencies, right? There's like Keller Williams, there's Better Home and Gardens, there's EXP, Compass. What is it about Compass that kind of like drew you in?
Well, I started off at Locations, and I think they did an amazing job of mentoring me, giving me all the skills that I needed to learn to become a successful agent. And then Compass kind of came along, and I was really intrigued by the technology and all of the extra benefits they have to give to my clients, such as Compass Concierge. I can actually help especially home flippers.
Okay.
Before it was $75,000, I could front to my clients interest-free, and you just pay it back at the close of escrow or 1 year's time, whichever is sooner.
Who fronts that money? Is it Compass?
My company, yeah.
So Compass will front the money to like do a renovation.
Yeah, so you can do your whole renovation. You can, and it's a win-win because you're going to be able to achieve a much higher sales price because you're fixing up the property and you're going to make it look nicer. But Compass also wins because with that becomes a higher price point, and we're going to sell for higher, and then obviously we get higher.
Do you guys ever have the case where, let's say, you front some money and then the seller changes their mind, doesn't sell afterwards?
That happened a couple times, but it's okay. The seller just has to pay that money back.
Okay, so it's just like a lien on the property.
Yeah, it's just a lien on the property, and but it's a real simple application. It takes less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
I've actually done it myself. It works great.
Okay. And so like who's in charge of like managing the project? Is it like you? Is it the homeowner? How does that process look like?
Normally the homeowner, but the good thing with Compass Concierge is they don't I guess police exactly where everything's going, as long if you send them an invoice or anything like that, and they'll actually send you they'll send you a debit card or a checkbook, and you can actually take care of all the payments yourself
As a homeowner.
That's
crazy. And so like you're basically giving the homeowner almost kind of like a blank check for us up to a certain amount. They can fix something, however they want to spend it, as long as they pay it back in on the sale of the house.
Yeah, so it's a huge advantage that a lot of our sellers can take advantage of.
I feel like that's really, really interesting. I feel like we might be able to use that in our business somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. So unfortunately, they lowered the value from $75,000 to $25,000, but you can still get a lot done with $25,000. And then now there's only a $500 origination fee, and that is the only fee. But everything else is 0% interest, and it has to do with because the interest rates have gone up so much and things like that.
So is there like so if we were to employ you to sell a house, basically you have access to that checkbook to for the homeowners or whoever it is that they're
exactly
doing. What about like on a flip? Like let's say I'm just thinking of like outside the box here. Is like let's say I've got a house I want to flip.
Yeah.
And then so I bought it already, and then I'm like, hey, Ben, like I want to like put a renovation in here. Can I use you and your checkbook of $25,000 to renovate the house and then sell it?
Yep.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's what.
I'm just thinking about this right now. Is like if we have like a small renovation as far as like as a house flipper, now we're not out any money out of our pocket, and like a 0% interest loan, which is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then as long as and it just comes back on the HUD afterwards, because we're always borrowing money for like the renovations.
Yeah, and in certain situations, since it has come down from 75,000 to 25,000, I will actually throw in some of my own funds.
Oh, really?
To help out. I do it kind of. On the side already. I'm a hard money lender, so people come to me and they look for
I mean, like just like if people want to do a project, they say,
Yeah.
"Hey Ben, like
Yeah.
you want to like help partner or fund on this
Yeah.
project?"
Yeah. So, people are looking to flip and
Mm-hmm.
they, they'll use me either on the purchase, on the sale, or on
Mm-hmm.
both.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to come in, help them with all the financing pieces, whether it's from Compass Concierge, whether it's from my own bank account, things like that.
Wow, I mean that's actually, I mean, like, maybe we should talk after this. That's a
Yeah.
really interesting idea. So
Yeah, of course. But yeah, getting back to your other question. So real estate sales is sort of
Okay.
number one, my bread
Okay.
and butter. But I also do my own real estate. So I try to kind of buy a property. My goal is to buy a new property every year.
okay,
I've sort of stuck to that. I would say maybe it's more like every other year.
okay.
But I try to pick up a new property.
In Hawaii or
in-
somewhere else?
So I've dabbled a little bit on the mainland. I got,
Okay. Burned.
not burned. I eventually got paid back, but it was
Okay.
just, to me, I like to be able to
See, the market,
see
like
it, know the market, drive to it, things like that. It's like what is it called? The hot cup of coffee rule.
I've never heard that.
From your house to wherever it is, if your coffee is still hot, then you should go for it.
Oh, that's
It's
interesting.
like
I've never heard that. That's a
I
good
heard that
rule.
before, and I like to stick to that. So even like stuff out in Waianae and stuff, I don't necessarily like to touch, because by the time I drive over there, my coffee's gonna be cold, even though I don't drink coffee.
So you live in on town side.
Yeah, I live town side, so.
And so I mean, are you buying single family houses, condos?
Everything,
What's kinda
condos,
here?
single family. I work with a lot of home flippers and investors. I don't necessarily flip myself. I like to fix up and hold. That's kind of been a lot of my strategy.
Do you like refinance into like a after? So you hear of the BRRRR strategy, like
Yeah, fortunately enough, my sales have been strong enough to where I don't really need to refinance.
So you just have like a lot of equity in the property
yeah,
afterwards.
so I just kind of just let it run.
Okay, and then that probably is easier to cash flow in that case, because
Yeah.
I typically in Hawaii it's very hard to find cash flow.
Yeah.
Although all these houses or rentals that you're buying, are they cash flowing positive, negative? What does that look like for you?
All positive.
Oh, okay.
And I wouldn't buy it if it was cash flow negative. I haven't necessarily bought anything in this higher interest rate environment, so that helps. All of my interest rates have been pretty low, but or sometimes I just buy it in cash. So
Kudos to you, man. I mean, it sounds like you're doing
Yeah.
really well on the real estate investing and on the sales side.
Yep. And so own my own real estate. I do hard money loans.
What do you charge interest on the hard money, or is it?
I got one out at 12% and one out at 14%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's usually 1 or 2 points down.
Do you
Yeah.
ever do any equity, or is it just always like just pure
No, I don't.
percentage?
I usually try to stay out of it. I like to keep things really clean.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
that's the one thing about equity. It can get really muddy because like
yeah.
when you're doing the P&L at the very end, like what expenses are really valid,
Yeah.
etc. So like that's always a challenge, I think.
Yeah,
So
I think so too.
Wow. I mean, like it sounds amazing. So I mean, you're crushing in real estate, both as sales and also like in your investments.
Yep.
And then like you're married to Miss Hawaii. So, like,
Yeah.
how did that happen? I'm just out of curiosity.
So yeah, my dad owns a bikini company called Local Boutique.
Okay. So I think, are they in Ala Moana?
Yeah, Ala Moana, Waikiki, Guam, Saipan.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
In Japan as well, in Ginza in Tokyo.
So they're in Japan too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So after I finished grad school, moved back home, worked in my family business, worked for my dad for about 6 years.
Is this in the local
In Local Boutique, yeah.
Okay.
And then I started my own line of swimwear called Kaimana Beachwear.
So this is before.
This is before real estate,
Okay.
before everything. And yeah, I got really into it. Started my own line. It was we actually design, manufacture, and retail everything in-house. So we buy blank fabric and we print, cut, sew. Everything's 100% made in Hawaii.
Wow, that's
my dad
crazy.
has like a
That's
building,
crazy.
in just off Keamoku Street. And it was a great business. I learned a lot. And I think probably one of the best things I ever did was sponsor the Miss Hawaii pageant. I said, hey, Dad, we're a local bikini company.
Yeah.
We got to be the sponsors for Miss Hawaii. Like no one else, we're the only ones who make bikinis in Hawaii. Like we got to sponsor this. And so set up the sponsorship, and my wife, was a contestant, turned winner. And that's how we met. We were friends for a long time, but the stars aligned, timing. It's all about timing, and timing was right. And we got together, and it's been amazing. We actually just had our first child, a baby girl.
Congratulations!
Actually 3 weeks ago.
Wow,
so pretty fresh.
You're not getting any sleep now. Then.
Well, fortunately, I've got an amazing, supportive wife, and so instead of both trying to watch the baby at the same time, we're dividing and conquering. So My wife is amazing. She takes the night shift. I'll work usually up until midnight or so.
Okay.
And when I finish work, then I'll return the baby to her. She'll take the night shift, and then I'll wake up about
When
8.
we say work, you mean you work the baby shift till midnight?
No, I'm working like on my computer.
Oh, really?
Like
So
real estate.
as a real estate?
Yeah, as
so
a real estate agent.
So you're as a real estate agent, you're working till 12 p.m. at 12 a.m.
So
at night?
I work quite a bit. I work every day. But it's a flexible schedule. So normally during the weekdays, I'm out and about like I am now. But come around dinner time, I usually play soccer or I'll have dinner, hang out with family.
Okay.
And then when it comes 9 o'clock or so, it's time to clock back in. And
So you guys like another like 2 or 3 hours of just like computer time, just like
so
cracking
9,
out
usually
stuff
about
and stuff.
9 to midnight. That's where I try to take care of all my emails.
So what are you doing? So like because during the day, like you can talk to people, they're answering your calls. There's a lot of like work that you can be done. But like from like 9 to 12, like most people are not working during that time.
Yeah.
So like what kind of work are you doing on your computer?
So that's when I usually tackle my emails. When you look at emails, they're normally reactive. It's like someone asking you for something. And so I do this thing where I try to win the day by noon. So I want to do all the things that are proactive approaches to myself and my goals from 9 a.m. to noon.
Can you explain that a little more? Like, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so like there's things that are going to be a proactive thing that's going to help your business. So for me, it's prospecting, it's marketing,
like outbound.
Yeah, it's
like
outbound
things,
things, social media.
It wasn't
posting.
like it wasn't a response to something else. You're like you're doing something.
It's like my tasks that I want to accomplish. It's my things that I want to do, and I do those from 9 a.m. to 12. I try not to do emails
or respond to
things, even text messages. I try not to. This is my time to. I've noticed for myself, and everyone's different, but for me, I have the most energy in the morning when I wake up, or not energy, but it's just my mind is clear. And I can tackle the big problems from 9 a.m. to 12. After that, you start to get a little tired and lazy, and you don't want to. You're just like, what? I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow. So,
I actually struggle with that. So like one of the things is I don't eat lunch because like if I eat lunch at 12, then like I need a nap after. Like my brain or my body just shuts down and I'm super lazy.
Yeah. And the feeling I get, if I already won the day by noon, which is what I call it, it's like I got the things done that I wanted to get done. Yeah. Then the rest of the day is just a piece of cake. And so, the rest of the day I'm out and about doing my showings, responding to text messages, calling, but emails I generally don't even go into until nighttime.
Wow, that's interesting.
And the thing is too, if you go through emails in the daytime, the minute you send out an email, you're gonna get another one back.
Exactly.
So you know what? It's better to just do it at night because it feels so good when you send it out and no one's on the computer and it's not gonna come back. Yeah, and it's normally like kind of reactive stuff.
So from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., you're just like cranking out outbound things like prospecting,
making my phone calls, checking in on my clients, social media posting.
And then 12 to like let's say like 2 or 3, you're out and about like going to showings, doing things like all the things that like in like a normal day people are up. They can like you can have lunches, coffees, whatever the things is, podcasts like this. Yeah. And then when you get home, it's like family time.
Family time, exercise time. So I like to exercise before dinner.
Okay. So you exercise at night.
Yeah, more evening. Okay. So usually right before dinner, I get a run and get a sweat, play soccer, lift weights, do something. Okay. Then have dinner, enjoy some family time, maybe watch a little TV. You got to rest and recharge a little bit, and then when my wife goes to bed, then that's when I turn on the computer again. 12. Yeah.
That seems like a very efficient way to kind of like that. And is this Monday through Sunday through Saturday, Monday through Friday? Do you have any days off?
No days off, but Monday through Friday, that's pretty much my schedule. On the weekends, I like to do a little bit more like personal work. So like housework, things that I've been putting off on the personal side, cleaning the house. But I'm still working, still showing, still doing emails and stuff like that. But yeah.
It sounds like a very balanced, it just makes a lot of sense. I feel like maybe I'll try some of these tactics. Like the 9 to 12 at night emails, I think is kind of like a genius thing.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people try to avoid that. But for me, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy working. It doesn't really stress me out. I can go to bed right after that. And it's a nice time to work because when you're trying to do those things in the middle of the day, I'm like typing up an email and then I get a phone call and then I got this and then, the wife said, hold the baby, do that. So it's just, it's so hard to stay focused. So I kind of enjoy the nighttime working hours because it's just No one's bothering me, and I can really just sit there and
Yeah.
do my computer work.
I mean, I have the same problem too. Like during the day, whenever I'm trying to do stuff, and like you get interrupted, and like it ruins your train of thought or like your focus. And so
Yeah.
what I like to do is just I lock myself in the room and say nobody talk to me, and like turn off my phone just so I can focus on my work. But maybe working from 9 to 12 might actually do the same
Yeah.
thing. So
And I'm very big on the Apple focuses.
Okay,
So I have one on work. So my work focus, my personal text won't come in, but I have a work line. Those work line texts will come in. And
that's
I won't get
interesting.
any phone calls from my personal line, but my work line will come through.
So you separate your
separate all the
contacts for
focuses.
like the there's work contacts and there's personal contacts.
Yeah.
And you can actually separate it in Apple to not like not receive from just your personal.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. So how many group texts are you in with all your friends and things like that? And you're constantly checking your phone, and you're getting blown up. And so I found it very efficient to be able to just kind of adjust my focus on my phone so that I don't get any alerts on anything. I don't get any social media alerts or anything. I'm just, my work focus is normally what my phone stays on. And then after I finish, if I'm at the dinner table or something, then I'll either take it off or I'll switch it to my personal. So if I switch it to my personal focus, then all my work calls are not coming in.
I see.
So I don't get any of those things.
That's really, really interesting. I'm gonna have to like look into that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like as a very successful realtor, I feel like you're doing something right. Like, like you're obviously like you're winning in a lot of different ways. What do you think it is that's really kind of propelled you to get to the place where you are at now?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a deep question. Definitely, I work hard. I think a lot of people behind the scenes think I just live this amazing lifestyle, and I'm just so lucky.
Just magically
and
happens,
It just magically
right?
happens, and I'm always out partying and going to events and having fancy dinners and things like that. And I think that's a big part of it, but they don't see the behind the scenes. I mean, just last night I was working till 1, 2 a.m. on my computer trying to get some things done while I could, and so they don't see a lot of like the hustle parts, the late nights.
Yeah.
But
How do you stay motivated to like, because I feel like a lot of times people, or myself included, like we feel lazy. Like the hustle is like, it's not as fun. Like, like how are you so motivated to continue to do all the things behind the scenes that need to get done?
I enjoy what I do. I think that's number one. I think if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you'll get burnt out. And so I really enjoy what I do. I feel good with what I'm doing. I see my clients earning appreciation and equity, financial freedom with all of the real estate that they're buying. I'm doing it myself. And so, they're winning, I'm winning. It's a win-win, and it makes me feel good. And so, yeah, I don't get burnt out because
when you say like what you do, like what are the things that would you consider like your job, or what are you actually doing?
I think, well, my main benefit, I think that the value that I bring to people is I really enjoy negotiating. I don't know what it is, but I've always been that way. I used to go on surf trips in Bali, and I would argue with the taxi cab guy over the taxi ride, and it's literally $2 versus $3, and it was literally $1 difference. But I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy the negotiations aspect of it.
That's really interesting. I mean, I feel like I'm the exact opposite. Like I'm like $3, sure. Like I won't even think twice. Even like today, like some of like our deals today, I'm like, I don't enjoy negotiating. I'm not a great negotiator, So like I always give away. So if we were to be on a deal together, I would just give you the whole boat. Because, like,
well, yeah. I mean, I enjoy it, but I think it translates to a benefit for my clients because time and time again, I've shown them how I'm able to save them money. Sometimes they'll say offer $2 million. And I say, you know what? I think we might be able to get it for like 1.8. Sure enough, I was able to get it for less. And when you do that to a client and you put yourself in their shoes and you show them that you have their best interests at heart and you're trying to save them every dollar, then they now trust you. They know that you're loyal, and they're going to reward you with referrals. And so that's how I've actually been able to scale my business so quickly, is because I've been acting with such integrity with all my clients. And so I don't have to do as much marketing. I don't have to go searching for leads. Every year has gotten exponentially easier for me as a realtor because my net is getting wider and wider and wider.
Your work speaks for itself, basically.
Exactly. And then my clients are not just transactional based. They're my clients for life. And so I'm constantly checking in on them, and they know that I care. And so they're always, whenever they're having their dinner conversations, about real estate, they say, hey, I know just the guy for you.
That's really, really interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, is we had a realtor that got us like 180 grand over our asking price, and the way that she negotiated like the deal at the back end, I was like very impressed, and I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
But then like I was like, after she did that, I was like, I'm like loyal to you because like you made me so much money,
Yeah.
And I think probably your clients are the same way, where once you've like made them a lot more than they expect, now like they've had such a good experience and they kind of know what you bring to the table, and now they're gonna refer their friends and stuff to you as well too.
Yeah, a lot of people look at commission as a cost, and that's not the right way to look at it. It's actually an investment. You're investing in me in order to make sure that I'm going to get this deal done for you, and I'm going to get you the best deal possible.
Yeah.
And so,
well, the thing is, like, not all realtors are made equal.
Yeah.
So for some realtors, like yourself, it's an investment. For other realtors, it's just a cost. Like you basically pay them just to stick in the MLS and like do nothing.
Exactly.
So like it just really matters on the realtor who are using those.
I think so too. Yeah.
But I mean, like, so I think like it sounds like over time you slowly build a book of business and continues to compound upon itself.
Yeah.
How long have you been selling houses or buying houses?
So probably since 2016. So
Okay.
I think it's been 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was like the very beginning of your journey, like let's say like because everyone says like the first 2 or 3 years are like just sucking. How was that like for you?
Yeah. I was, I felt like I was kind of like a trust fund baby a little bit. I was very spoiled.
Okay.
My dad did very well in his company, and I worked for my dad, earned a salary with him. I didn't have any expenses. And that's what kind of made me feel like I wasn't in the game of life. And before I got too much older, I said, hey, Dad, I kind of want to see what else is out there. And before I get too old and I can't switch, and my dad was very supportive. And so I was talking with a friend, and he was like, dude, you would be a great realtor. And so
why you say you'd be a great realtor? What do you
I don't know, because he knows I'm sociable. It's, I like I'm naturally extrovert. I like to meet people and talk to people. And I don't know what it was, but yeah, he gave me that kickstart, and I'm very grateful for him for doing that. But there was one caveat for leaving the family business.
Okay.
Everything I earned, I had to give back to my dad.
I
think I had about 100,000 in the bank at that time from salary and just saving and stuff. And he said, okay, you want to leave the family business? That's fine, but you gotta move out of my house. My dad had a nice house in Diamond Head.
Okay.
So you gotta move out of my house, and you gotta give all the money back. And I
was like, the money that you made previously.
From
that seems kind of like unfair, but I mean.
So I was super unfair. It was at the time, I thought, and I was very angry. But in hindsight, I realized why he did that. And the reason is, if he didn't do that, I would have coasted for another 2, 3, 4 years because I had $100,000.
Yeah.
And I would have just taken my time. I still would have partied. I still would have, wasted money, things like that. Yeah. That got things really serious really quick. And so then it was like, okay, you want to do this? And I looked at myself in the mirror and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. Left the house. I did a self-improvement seminar called PSI Seminars.
Okay, I've heard of those.
Yeah.
Those are really good.
And that's what kind of gave me the courage to leave my family business and to explore what else is out there. Because when you've got that parachute, it's so hard to leave. Yeah. And so I trusted my gut and told myself, you know what, I can make it in this world without my dad. So I, in that group, I'll never forget. They have you write down a 30-day goal. Okay. And my 30-day goal was to get my real estate license.
Okay.
And my coach looked at me and he said, does that scare you? And I said, no, not really. And he's like, then that's not your goal. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay, what is my goal? And we started talking more. And then I realized what my goal was. It was to move out of my dad's house.
Wow.
Which was the scariest thing. And I was like 30 years old at the time, which, still living with your dad at 30 years old, it was like... And it was the scariest. It was, to leave my family business and leave my dad's house.
Because you had such security over there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about it. Like, once you're on your own, you're buying your own groceries, you're paying your own gas. I mean, like, your rent is a real thing in Hawaii.
And Hawaii, cost of living is so high here. There's so many people that live with their family, and I totally understand why. But then I wrote down that goal, and he said, does it scare you? And I said, absolutely. And he said, that's your goal. So my goal was, after the seminar, within 30 days, move out of my dad's house and leave the family business. So that's when I had my conversations with my dad. And actually, within my small group of the PSI seminars, I asked anyone, I said, hey, I can't afford my own place. My dad just basically took all my money from me. I had like less than $3,000 in my bank account. I was like, does anybody want a room with me? Because I'm going to need a roommate. And it's hard because I went from like living this lifestyle where I didn't have any expenses.
Yeah.
I had the company credit card. I was buying bottles at, at Addiction every time. And it's just like, and then like at 30 years old, you got to like take 5 steps backward. And I'm like, whoa.
It's almost, I feel like it's almost like a lot of these very successful guys like a Donald Trump or Robert Kiyosaki, where you've had all the success, right? You're like living a great life and then you go bankrupt.
Yeah.
So I mean, like obviously like you didn't go bankrupt, but you basically went from like all this security and this like lavish until basically nothing, and you got to kind of bootstrap and start out by yourself.
Yeah. But then, so we found a place to rent, and I signed on with Locations. And so the place we rented was literally across the street from Locations. Because I told myself, I'm all in, and I don't want, I want to be across the street from the office because I want to go there every day. I want to soak in as much.
I love that attitude.
Yeah. I don't have time. Like I don't have any money. So, what they don't teach you in real estate is when you become a realtor, the sales don't just come like this. And even if you were to make, a sale, you still have to wait for it closes. And the commission you earn when you first start is super low because
you got to give to your broker.
Your brokerage is going to take at least 50%. Yeah. So it was a very difficult start, but I went to the office every day, and I just, after they trained me, they're like, okay, kind of see you later. And I'm like, okay. So I just spent the whole first month just putting people into my CRM. And I think most people, when they send out their like welcome announcement, which is like, hi, I'm a realtor. Please contact me if you need anything. They send out to 100, 200 people. Yeah. I sent that email out to about 3,000 people.
Wow.
Because I was just like, you know what? I'm going to hit this thing hard. So I just pulled everyone I could, everyone I knew, pulled it all in, and I sent it out, and still no sales came.
Yeah.
And then there was,
like the thing is, like when you're just starting, it's like you're not. And this is the same thing with real estate investing. I think is you're putting like a ton of work, without any any result. But it's like what you don't realize, there's things that are compounding behind the scenes. Your skill set's getting better, and like you're putting out all the feelers where eventually it's like a slow process to burn to see the results.
Exactly. So then I had to pay rent, and so I had all these real estate expenses. You have to pay licensing fees, brokerage fees, everything, and so I had to ask my mom to borrow money. I can't go back to my dad. So I said, Mom, can I borrow $5,000? And she's like, yeah, sure. Here you go. And then that went up in smoke. And then I was like, Mom, I got to borrow another $5,000. So I borrowed $10,000 from my mom. And then finally I would work late at night at the office. And there was one lady, she was a partner at the company. She would always see me. We were the only two working late at night there.
That's respect. I mean, like when you're like running super hard and like you're outpacing your peers, then you see the other guy who's putting the same amount of effort. Like I have like high respect for that.
Yeah. So. And then she kind of saw me not eating throughout the day because I didn't have any money. Like I would just go to Safeway, and like that was my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like whatever I could get from Safeway. Like I didn't want to waste any money because I'm already borrowing money from my mom. It's already embarrassing. I got to pay her back as fast as possible. And so she saw me working late at night, and then slowly she would like bring me food, she's like, and I'm like, no, I'm good. And she's like, no, you've been here all day. You haven't even eaten. Here you go. So she started to notice that and give me food. And then one night we started talking, and I realized that like I went to high school with her daughter.
Oh, wow.
And so we kind of made that connection. And then she was like, hey, I've got a client coming. Do you want to help me? And I'm like, absolutely. I've got 0 clients. I don't know what to do. You're a partner of the company. So we partnered. And I think originally she said like, I'll get like 30% or something. And I ended up doing so much work for her. I think she ended up splitting it with me like 50-50.
Wow.
It was a smaller sale, but that's what kind of gave me the confidence to do what I'm doing. Is because she gave me that first sale.
Yeah.
So after that, my second sale was the bar that I used to frequent all the time. Reached out to, he was like, yeah, you're in real estate now. I want to buy this property. I'm like, boom, helped him. And then, I remember I did one of my first open houses. Nobody came. I was kind of bummed. I'm like, man, I just wasted 3 hours of my Sunday. Came back to the apartment I was renting, pulled out my open house sign, and my landlord's like, oh, you're a realtor? And I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, oh, I wanted to buy this unit at Island Colony. I was like, oh, absolutely. I'd love to help you. So boom, 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 made my first 3 sales right away, paid back my mom, got in the positive, and I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. My first year, I think I sold a little over 7 million.
Wow, that's really good for your first year.
My first year, yeah. Second year was about like 12 or 15-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, been, hitting 20, 40. now kind of
Amazing.
over 40 million a
It's
year.
it's kind of, I mean, it goes to like, it's like your work ethic in the very beginning like speaks volumes into how like successful you're gonna be. I think a lot of guys, when they're not seeing the success, they're like, oh, screw this, I'm just gonna quit. And they're like,
Yeah.
90% of realtors actually do quit, right? Because like they don't get the success. But like just seeing your grit, I think, to like just work late night with like Safeway bread or whatever it is you're eating, like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or whatever.
Yeah.
But then like I think like that's like when you see somebody like that, there's like, it's just a matter of time before you're gonna have success. And it might not be the first year, it might not be the second year, but eventually it's just a matter of time before
Yep.
someone's gonna see what you're doing. They're gonna give you an extra shot. And like I always want to help people who are like are hard grinding and they're trying to help themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who ask for like, hey, can we get coffee? Can you help me out? And like after I say, hey, read this book, and like they don't ever read it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the guy's like, hey, like I read this book. What can I do next? And whenever like they're hungry, it just makes you want to help the next guy coming up. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think some huge books for me: Think and Grow Rich.
yeah, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, that one changed my life. I think when I read that, I was like, whoa, okay, I understand this now. You know, it's about having confidence, it's about manifestation.
There's so many things I feel like where books or like it changes like the way you see the world.
Yeah.
And then once your perspective changes, it changes your actions. It changes like everything about you. And so like once your mindset is shifted, like it almost like invites or breeds success.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Think and Grow Rich, what other books would you recommend to people?
7 Habits.
Highly Effective.
Yep.
I mean, okay.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I enjoy.
What kind of podcasts do you listen to?
I like Gary Vaynerchuk.
Okay.
But now I'm kind of a little bit more into Tom Ferry, which is more real estate focused.
Okay.
But yeah, as I'm driving, I'm always kind of listening to things, always trying to grow and learn the latest new tools and techniques.
I feel like that's like another indicator of a successful person is like they're always listening to podcasts and learning and growing.
Yeah.
I think when I first started, I listened to like all like Bigger Pockets or real estate investing podcasts.
Yeah.
Now like I'm kind of like over real estate because like I feel like it's always the same story.
Yeah.
But now like we're in business or like other things or like leadership things, and so like but it's just the journey of entrepreneur is just constant growth.
Yeah.
And then like if you ever like stop growing or you just feel like complacent, I feel like that's when your business is gonna like go downwards or it's gonna spiral down.
Yeah. I'm always looking for the next big thing. Definitely want to get more into development and things like that. So.
How does your wife feel about like you listening to podcasts in the car?
So I don't necessarily listen to it when she's in it because I can't concentrate. So I'm only listening to it when I'm by myself. Yeah.
And then so like you and your wife is your wife part of your business? What is she doing?
So she helped me for a little while. She was a licensed agent and she helped me a lot with a lot of my clients. She's amazing, obviously with dinners and things like that. She's so easy to talk to. But then she dabbled in a couple of other industries. She was in jewelry sales, she's selling diamonds and things like that. And then actually more recently, her sister and her sister's boyfriend started a oyster shucking business. So they're a mobile oyster. It's called Oysters Hawaii.
Okay.
They go to private events. They actually go to every single Las Vegas Raider home game.
Okay. So in Vegas.
In Vegas. Okay. But they open oysters, and it's a really cool experience.
How did she get into it, or what was like the
her sister had the idea. She did it a little bit in New York and kind of brought the idea home. But they've been crushing it. They're kind of all over Hawaii at every single corporate event, wedding, birthday parties, you name it.
I mean, I feel that's another thing I noticed is a lot of like successful entrepreneurs is there's always like new opportunities or ideas that you're kind of like always scheming and thinking through. Like you're like, hey, this will be a great idea. We'll see what this happens. And so oyster shucking, that's a great idea. Is there any other investments? So you're doing hard money, you're doing rentals, you're doing
I invested in my friend's bar downtown. It's called the Lay Stand, right across from Hawaii Theater on Bethel Street. But that one is
that the one where it's like a hidden it's
a speakeasy.
It's like a soda machine or something you gotta walk into.
There's like a lay stand in the front where you can buy lays and t-shirts and stuff, and then just through the cracks you can go in, and then it opens up into a large bar, and then beyond that is another outdoor area, and then beyond that is even a third private room in the back. So there's a bunch of little.
Is there like a password you need to get into there, or like how does that?
No, it's you just need a reservation.
Okay.
But it's it's been cool. Good experience, and I just really kind of believed in the concept, and it's just kind of a fun side hobby to have with me and my friends.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
What are kind of like your thoughts on like the real estate market in today's like day and age? And like, what's like the strategy as because I feel like it's changed like so much over the last like 5 years. Like prices have gone up a lot. Like interest rates, obviously they're fluctuating. And then like, do you think like the market's gonna like correct? Do you think it's gonna keep increasing? Like what? Because it's almost feels like it's unaffordable at a certain point. Like, you know, like is this? Can we continue on like how it's going?
Yeah, I think, I mean, in Hawaii, you have two options. You can complain and put yourself in this bucket and just say everything's too expensive and just live your life doing what you're doing. Or you can say, you know what, there's got to be a way out of this. And, you know, sometimes in life you have to take 2 steps back in order to take 3 steps forward. And so, you know, maybe your first home's not going to be your dream home, but maybe you just get in there and maybe you start earning equity, and then the market starts appreciating, and then that turns into a rental property and investment property, and you get to something else. But, you know, what I've seen in the last 5 years, obviously we're in a different interest rate environment, and interest rates have gone up quite a bit, and interest rates have everything to do with how much you're going to be paying monthly on your mortgage. But all signs point to that coming down within the coming years. Inflation is starting to get under control. The target is 2%. It's gone from, you know, 4 to 3 to maybe now 2.7%. So the Federal Reserve is saying, hey, we're on the right track. Let's start cutting rates. And so we had our first rate cut since I think 2020, just recently, and they cut it by 0.5%. And now another 1/4 point decrease. So it hasn't really affected the interest rates quite yet. I think a lot of our clients are looking at about 6.8% or something for an interest rate. But all signs point to that coming down within the years to come. Now, I don't think it's ever going to go down to like the 2.5%, 3% that we were used to during COVID.
That was so crazy, man.
That's crazy. I mean, I paid off one of my properties. I don't know why, but I had like a 3% mortgage, and I paid the full thing off, and I didn't pull a HELOC back out, and now that's one of the challenges for this house over here is I feel like I can never sell it because I've got a 2.9 on it. And like, it just makes it so hard because like how you can never get it back again. You know? So. And so I think that's what's going to happen for a lot of people is that as the interest rates come down, it's going to bring in a flurry of buyers, but it's also going to unlock a lot of seller inventory. Right now, there's a lot of people like you that are hanging on to it, and they rather rent it out because they have such a good interest rate on it. But if we start to get closer to the 4% range, I think then you'll start to see people willing to let it go. Makes sense. And so I'm sort of coaching my buyers now, you know, maybe let's get ahead of the mad rush. So let's buy a property now while we can get a lower price. We can get tons of credits from the seller. And then let's go for a highly leveraged loan. Let's only put a really small amount down, save all your cash, and get points back from the lender, or, you know, 0 points. You don't want to try to buy down the rate right now. And then get that interest rate super high. And then hopefully within the next year, 2, 3 years, the interest rates are going to come down to a point where you can refinance into a steady 30-year loan.
That's a really interesting strategy because I think a lot of guys they're buying down the rates now for like the next 2 years. But then when you buy down the rate, it's only like a 1 or 2 or 3 year period. But if you're planning to refinance anyway, like you basically paid for nothing, right?
Exactly. So, I'd rather get a lower price and I'd rather get cash back from the seller. And so a lot of my buyers right now, they're getting a lot of seller credits.
I mean, because it definitely is a buyer's market. We're seeing that. So I mean, like, and then if you have a good negotiator, then you can like negotiate a lot of credits for sellers. And I'm like the most terrible like seller. I'm like, when the buyer's like, hey, can we get some credit? I'm like, whatever, like just take whatever. Like, but
you gotta hold the line.
That's very interesting. So maybe just last question for you. If like maybe somebody's who's just getting into like they want to become a realtor, they want to be the next Ben Feynman. They want to sell $10 million houses and they want to marry Miss Hawaii. You know, like what piece of advice would you give to someone like that?
Well, first thing, it's all about mindset. You have to believe that you deserve it. You know, if you have a negative outlook on yourself, then good things are not going to happen to you. So you have to believe you deserve it, and that's the first step. But specifically for real estate, you want to sign with a really good brokerage that's going to train you and show you the ropes. I mean, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have the training that Locations gave me. All the partners gave back so much of their time to teach me about real estate, and I learned so much from them. So I think, definitely learning from industry professionals, that's going to be your quickest way to get in. But I think, you know, especially for new agents, there's no one. Sometimes when you go from a 9 to 5 job and then you try to get into real estate, there's no one there telling you what to do.
Yeah.
And so people get lost. They don't have a to-do list. They don't know what to do. So they end up going to the beach and just cruising and traveling and, making a couple sales a year. It's important to create a system for yourself to know exactly what you need to work on. And so I know exactly every day what I need to accomplish. And so, I think those things are the most important.
Awesome, man. Well, if people want to reach out and find more about you, what's the best place to do it?
So you can hit me up on my work line, 808-400-7007. You can find me. My email is ben@fineman.com. My website's www.fineman.com. And I'm on all social media platforms at Ben Fineman. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming to the show, Ben. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.